Hello, everyone. My name is Nick Cucci. Welcome. I'm the Executive Director of the New York chapter of the Recording Academy. I hope everyone is safe and your loved ones are safe and healthy in this crazy new pandemic world of ours. Also, please make sure you wear your mask, gloves, and obey your social distancing guidelines wherever you're living. As you could see, the New York chapter has pivoted to virtual programming, as all the Academy chapters have. And for the foreseeable future. So it's essential that everyone joins the New York chapter Facebook group, as well as follows all the socials of the Academy, so you can not only know about, but also participate in all of the programming, not just what we produce here in New York. The subject today is mental wellness, and it's an important issue in the music community, and music plays a big part in the conversation. We have assembled a panel of experts today. There is going to be a Q&A section at the end, so please feel free to submit any questions in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. So now, let me introduce you to today's host and moderator. He's a rapper, an entrepreneur, hosts the tour guide on SiriusXM's Hip Hop Nation. He's an on-air correspondent for BET and Revolt TV. He's a husband, a father, a born and bred New Yorker, and someone whose voice matters to the culture. And in his spare time, he is the vice president of the New York chapter of the Recording Academy. I can't imagine when he has spare time. And I am truly blessed to call him my friend. Please, Torae Carr, everyone.
Thank you, Nick, for that amazing introduction. I thought
you're welcome, my friend.
I said, wait, they got somebody else? They came me at the last minute? I didn't know it was going to be me, man. Good to see you. First and foremost, before we get into this program, and how are you and your family doing?
Very well, thank you, and hope so for yours too.
Absolutely. As are all the participants, we hope that you and your families are doing well. And now on to this conversation that we have planned for you. Like Nick said, man, mental wellness and health is super important. It's really a big topic of conversation right now. And today we have two experts that are going to be leading the conversation. And I think that we are in for an amazing time. So I would like to bring to you all the first of our two speakers for today's webinar. The first up is board certified music therapist and Grammy Award winning John Samson, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much, Torae. Oh, wow. So being called an expert twice in like a minute and a half period, and I'm here thinking to myself, goes like, this is the process. Thank God we're not charging, because that takes all the pressure off, you know? But then there's this thing of actually, you guys are giving us your time. And to me, that is even more important than money. And I don't take that lightly. And so I just want to acknowledge that, because, you know, we have this, Stacie and I were chatting about this the other day, because we both sort of independently came to this realization that time is the real currency, right? Because you don't know exactly how much you have, but it's limited. And when you're giving that to anything, you are paying your attention, you're putting your focus on something. And so I'll breathe on that, because I'm just setting the intention that some of my rambling is useful and helpful. So I just want to start with this idea of duality.
Let me bring Stacie in.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, it's okay. John has said clearly he has a lot to say, a lot of valuable information for you all. The second of our two speakers today joining us is the vocal psychotherapist and international recording artist, Stacie Aamon. Stacie, how are you today?
I'm doing wonderful, Torae. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. How are you?
Pleasure. I'm doing well. I'm really excited about the conversation today. Like I alluded to in my introduction, it is like the topic of conversation with COVID, with social unrest, with people being quarantined, with people being out of work, not able to perform, not able to, get to their livelihood. There's so much going on. And just to have someone to talk you through it, to understand where you're coming from, to just, be able to sympathize, empathize, converse with you is super important. So I'll be quiet now. I'll let the experts get to what they do. And like I said, we are in for amazing programming. Again, Nick told you guys that there is a Q&A box down there. So if you do have any questions, feel free to let them be, written out and known there in the comments, and we'll get to them at the end of the programming. So
Well, I was really
John,
interested in what John was saying about duality. That's what
yeah, John, you were saying, John.
Well, there's a lot I have to say about duality. Because of the times that we're living in, and part of the time that we're living in is also realizing what we haven't been dealing with for a very long time. But here's my first point here is that this duality requires a level of earnestness that we have maybe never even seen before from ourselves. And then also playfulness, because things are so serious, we are in such a predicament, not just one predicament, but several, that how do we balance this addressing it with a sense of wisdom and centeredness and maturity, and at the same time factor in that child archetype that needs to play and be creative and spontaneous and really enjoy the moment. And so those are quite juxtaposed. And so I wanted to just acknowledge that because, can we have fun during this conversation? I hope so. Are there some serious topics that should not be joked about? Absolutely. So I just want to sort of set that intention for some kind of balance of those two polarities. What do you think of that, Stace?
Sounds wonderful. I mean, I think you've really put it well. I think this is a very unique moment in time when we are what I like to call in the in-between. And, the in-between bit pretty much is just between one paradigm that is definitely dying, the paradigm of separation, racism. We have a lot of things that are up right now. And so that old paradigm, that old way of being, it's time for it to go. And it's so clearly dying off, yet we have not quite seen, nor are we anchored in a new paradigm, right? And nor do we know what that really looks like. So it's this very strange time of being caught in the in-between. And when we are in the in-between, whether it be on a macro as the world is now, or whether it's on a micro where it's personal, it's always creates or tends to create some level of anxiety and depression and confusion. And it's just a lot of mixed bags of feelings and emotions that emerge. And so, yeah, dual pandemic, race, COVID, it's just so much that's up right now. So I think this is a very important conversation to have.
Plus all the other world predicaments that were already happening, climate change, poverty, corruption, all of those. And so where does the power lie? Because if we wait for the outside world to come into alignment, okay, now the world is showing me that it's okay to be balanced and centered and authentic. Now I can do that. Unfortunately, it's not how it works, because the speed of healing is much quicker for an individual than it is for a group. Does that make sense? I mean, of course, I'll explain it more, but I'm just curious that concept, if we do the work as individuals and take care of this stratosphere, this one here, connecting these points, and from that place, going out there and doing the work. I'm just seeing a lot of people so disgruntled with what's going on out there, as they should be, but where the mental health piece comes in is, does that break you to the point where you give up, where you just feel like you have no power because of all of that? And so how do we garner these tools and start to focus on that microcosm? I had such an epiphany the other night when I was, it's a rare occurrence that I plan before I speak. I usually show up and I see all the people out there and, we vibe, and then, we find things to talk about. And so, I got to come in with a plan. And I started doing some writing. And, being in this field of mental health, anyone that's dabbled in psychology, the term integration is salt, pepper integration. It's just when you do that work on a personal level, what does that mean? You're taking all of the parts of yourself and you're reconciling those. You're learning how to accept all the parts of yourself. That's integration, right? And then I had this aha moment, even though it seems obvious in hindsight, where, wait a minute, that's exactly what the world is doing right now. It's trying to integrate. It's trying to reconcile all those different parts of itself, right? All the different races and religions and creeds and colors, all of it. And so for me, it was a new I was aware of both of them simultaneously, but not in such a literal parallel, and realizing that the work here is to integrate. The work out there is to integrate. And so You know, starting on an individual level is more manageable. It's more, you can go more with some kind of logic as opposed to just diving in and, you know, anyway. Stace, you want to respond?
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me of the old saying, as above, so below. I mean, anything that happens within the external, you know, the internal is going to inform your external reality. There's another kind of truth or universal truth that form follows consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea of being able to shift our own consciousness through mental health practices, through self-care, through things like that are going to absolutely inform the perceptions of how we're interpreting our reality in that kind of a way, you know. And so that's why you can be in a room with you know, or a grocery store, let's just say, with, I guess, whatever the max number of people are, 60, 50 these days. And literally each person can be in their own world, you know, because we're all having these very unique experiences that are colored by the filters of our personal experience and our own levels of mental health. So it's a very unique time, again, you know, where you're seeing this kind of mass shift and transformation happening, but we're all having very different experiences.
That's definitely true. When COVID first, you know, hit us, it was, we're all in the same boat. And then of course we realized very quickly that's absolute nonsense. And it's like, maybe we're experiencing the storm, but we're all in different boats and different experiences and dynamics. And so something that I think about a lot is how, you know, we're still learning the extent to which we're connected. We're still at the level of, I need to wear a mask or somebody might get COVID. I might contract it, I might give it off, I don't know. Yet that's not the only thing that's contagious, right? How we feel, how we think, how we manage our internal world gets projected out, and in ways that are sometimes invisible. We don't realize it. You know, you walk down the street and you give somebody a half a smile, and you don't realize that they were this close to suicide. And it's just that little bit of human spark gave them something, and you don't know. You have no idea. You were just feeling good, you know. You did your workout or whatever, and you're on a vibe. I woke up this morning, and I hope some of you can relate to this. Angry for no particular reason. It's not like I don't have reasons to be angry. All I have to do is turn on the news or think about what's been going on. But on a personal level, and I've been talking to a lot of friends and colleagues, and some of us, we just wake up with this anger. And it's not one particular thing. It's just this sort of amorphous cloud that we're in. And of course, put my puppy on the backpack, and we went to the park with our masks and our gloves and all of that. And just doing that physical thing, you know, and breathing and like coming, and then having socially distanced positive interactions with other people, you know, and how their positive mood it just like washed it away, those feelings. And so I just try to never underestimate the power of, you know, you got to honor it. If you're not feeling good, you're not committing a crime, but, you know, trying to heal that consciously and actively is so important, not just for you, because keep this in mind, we're not just talking about your mental wellness, we're talking about everybody's mental wellness, and everyone's looks different. You know, something can balance one person and throw somebody off. And so being able to honor everybody's perspective and different experiences that they're having.
You know, what I wanted to ask, just the importance of music, right? We're at the Recording Academy. The thing that connects us all to each other is the music, our love for the music or our performing of the music. And I know that you both have detailed ways about how music can help. You know, I listen to music, I write music, and I always say it's therapeutic. But what does that really mean? And especially in times like this, you know, how does the music connect to our mental health and wellness?
Stacie.
Okay, I'll go. Well, you know, it's very interesting because one of the things I always like to say is that, you know, music bypasses the ego. It goes straight to the unconscious. It goes straight to the heart. So inherently, that's one of the main components of why music is healing, is that it really goes past the mind. And a lot of what we talked about before is, the mind, the mental state. And so music assists us by being able to cut through the chatter, cut through all of the stories and the insanity, and gets us right into our feeling center where a lot of the change and the shift can happen. So music is a heart-centered experience. And so that's different for different people. Music is not prescriptive in a sense that a song or a type of genre is going to make one person feel different than another. So there's music listening, which we get to curate ourselves, particularly with all the great technology that's out here. And then there's the actual performance of music, where if you are a musician, there can be a cathartic experience to that, and the music making process. And so I feel like it's really just an innately healing thing. And it's so much about being able to, again, tap in and tune into what you connect to. What I also kind of want to mention that is a big thing is that I have a lot of clients that are musicians, and there are some musical kind of blocks that people are feeling creatively, right? So sometimes right now, a lot of musicians can't find their music, or they are having trouble challenging to being able to create something. And I just kind of want to validate anyone who's in this session who has that, because according to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the first three levels, of that hierarchy have to do with survival, psychological well-being. So there's certain things that are in place, right? So you have needs being met. So if we are afraid of our needs not being met, basic needs, if we're afraid of our health, then it's very difficult to get into that next part of the pyramid where creativity lies. And what I find is that since the pandemic began, there are a lot of kind of messages out there like, oh, it's the pandemic, use this time to create and use this time to take on a new hobby. And some people just can't get into that space, because of the fact that we're in all of this lower, pyramid hierarchy of needs, which makes it very difficult. So just validating that that's, a normal experience to have. And if that is the case, if that's something that you're experiencing, then what I find is that parallel creative activities are been really great for me. So the days where I'm not really feeling like I can write a song, or not feeling like I can sit down at the piano, I'll go cook something delicious, or I'll do like a silly activity like a paint by numbers. Because what's important for me as an artist is to keep the creative energy moving as a healing tonic for my soul. Because I have to create or I'll die. I'll begin to wither away if I'm not in that full creative space. So I just kind of wanted to add that in terms of, yes, this is a conversation about music, but we are also musicians, most of us here, and that can oftentimes be complicated. I don't know any musician that doesn't have some level of complication with their own art, right? So if there are blocks there, and music is not as accessible, then definitely investigate. As John said so beautifully, the playful side of us is that we get to, as artists, find new ways to create and new ways to kind of express. So that could be a fun journey.
Yes, super important, super important. Even myself, John, before we go to you, I, because there's so much happening in the world, and me as a creative and a songwriter, initially I was like, wow, there's so much going on. I feel so much right inside from so many different angles. I was like, that's tons of material. And then sometimes you just feel that block as to how to get it out, because there's so much going on. It's almost like a double-edged sword. It's like there's so much that's happening that how can you not talk about it, but then how can you even get to the point where you can start to talk about it? So, I've been able to work my way through it, and create on days when I feel it and I feel inspiration, and on days where I don't feel the musical creation inspiration, I do other things just to kind of clear the blockage. John, what were you going to add to that?
Yeah, so, our creative health is tethered to our mental health. Our mental health is tethered to absolutely everything. And so, just because we're professional musicians doesn't mean we're necessarily using the music that we're making, for authentic expression, right? And so, we have, one of the things I always end up talking about, and it sounds like I'm kidding, but I'm not. First, I talk about poop, because of the importance of that digestive system of taking in, using what you need and then releasing the rest. And, that's that's your immune system right here is your gut, right? And we have a creative system that is a duplicate on an emotional level. And so we have emotional digestion. And so what happens is we get blocked, we get stuck when we don't express what needs to be released, right? Especially when, Stacie mentioned the hierarchy of needs, when you're stuck in that survival and you're trying to produce a song for a placement. That's not necessarily, it's wonderful when you can really integrate all of that, do a song that's a pure expression of your soul, and then you happen to be able to get it into a high budget movie and, get royalty checks for the rest of your life. Wonderful. That's amazing, right?
Right.
So, in music therapy, one of the main, and therapy in general, but particularly music therapy, it's process versus product, And there is a way to combine, my album, Ageless, Songs for the Child Archetype, really was that for me. It was a process of exploring mental health, exploring what I wanted to say and how I wanted to say it, and, working with the kids. But it had a goal in mind. But my level of integrity was more, I have to first make sure that every step of this process is something that I'm really in. It's not just, let me just get this over with, let me just get this done. I mean, that's inevitable with every project, but for the most part, being able to really make your product with a process that doesn't cost you mental health, because that's my number one gripe with the education system, is that it costs children and parents and teachers mental health instead of supporting it. I've been working with kids now for 15 years. I work with adults as well, a lot of kids though, and they all say the same things about school, even the ones that are doing well, or especially the ones that are doing well. But there's a whole spectrum. There's the stress of not even being able to go to school. And then there's, well, once you're in, are your gifts really being nurtured? We haven't yet developed a systemic model for what a holistic education looks like, for weaving mental health in, so that it isn't just this side class that you take. It's not a workshop, it's a life path, Everything, you're just a walking field of mental energy and emotional energy, and mental health, emotional health, they're the same thing. Oh yeah, his mental health is great, emotionally he's doing terribly. I mean, they are mutually exclusive. So anyway, the expression piece I just wanted to emphasize is that, there's your job, what you're doing, and also letting go with music therapy, you can let go of aesthetics. One of the hardest exercises we did, Stacie, at NYU, we went to NYU together for music therapy 15 years ago. Remember that exercise where we had to sing off key?
Oh my gosh.
And it's really hard, but as musicians and producers, you
Not for everybody.
Fair. It's hard for me.
And, to add to that, John, the other thing that was hard for me in that process, in that practice, because I came to NYU with tons of creative injury from, first record deal loss at 16 years old. So I had no identity outside of being a recording artist. So when I got to NYU, one of the things that scared the bejesus out of me was really improvisation. Mm-hmm. So it was the singing off key, because of course the perfectionist in me, which is like, oh my God, I can't sing off key. But then the improvisation is so much about process. I had to totally come out of my attachment to product and to aesthetic and allow myself to play. And it was even harder for me personally because I was a classical musician first. And so I was married to the page. I was married to the staff, so to speak. So I didn't understand the concept of playing something where I didn't know what was going to happen and predict what was going to happen. And that was so telling for my growth and my unfoldment that I was afraid to play. As an artist, I was still afraid to play. It wasn't until I began to improvise and understand, what it means to let go and to have that level of self-trust. So just adding to what John said, I mean, that's the transformative part of music therapy, as it brings us right back into that inner child, which so many of us began from that space as musicians. And sometimes, different dynamics, whether it be the business or, whatever the case is, that kind of just, we forget that that's the primary
The
motivation.
recitals.
Yeah.
The recitals. I'm the opposite end of the spectrum. I can barely read a note of music. Barely. You know, so improvisation is just, that's the language I speak. If you put a lead sheet in front of me, it's like, you know, here comes my anxiety, here comes my worthiness issues. But I'm so glad you brought up improvisation, because, you know, that's where you're going to be able to tap into your unconscious, when you're just like, I don't know what to do with these feelings, and to trust yourself enough. You know, even if you're not necessarily, you might end up writing a masterpiece, or you throw it out, but it's the same as going for a run. You got to sweat it out, and being able to use the voice. And Stacie has so much to say about the voice. You did further training after NYU. You could maybe talk about that, because we all have a voice regardless of what instrument. Or most.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and the interesting thing I always tell my clients, you know, that I hear a lot that says, you know, people say, oh, well, I can't sing. You know, I work with a lot of people. There's so many people who think they can't sing. And what I wind up telling them is that, you know, you actually probably just can't hear. Because the idea of singing is so connected to hearing. And so most people, when they hear themselves sing, they don't sound like they're in pitch, or they have pitch issues in general, but that's a hearing component. It has nothing to do with the quality of the voice. So subsequently, many people shut their voices down. We live in a culture, with Western culture, that cages creativity, that only says that certain people should be able to sing. And we live in a culture where we have shows, not that I'm hating on these shows, but these kinds of music, vocalizing shows, you know, that then further reinforce this idea that only certain people should sing. So what we have is this whole society of people who have either inadvertently or unconsciously or consciously closed their voices down, that have shut themselves down. Well, the problem is that your voice is you. Someone tells you you can't play guitar, you may feel a little bit smarted, but you'll probably keep playing. Someone tells you you can't sing, there's a possibility that you'll never sing again. I've seen it. So the voice and the self are synonymous. So because we have such this deep level of intimacy of the voice, if we close it down, we're ultimately shutting down a part of ourselves. And conversely, if we want to open up and connect to parts of ourselves, building intimacy with self, which has everything to do with mental health, then activating the voice, again, not from performance, but being able to be in process with the voice, whether it be through improvisation or toning or vocalizations or singing safe songs. Back in my performance days, I had a fantastic vocal teacher who would give me a safe song. She's like, you know, choose a safe song to sing that you never perform. A song that you can have just for you and just for your voice that you sing. It's like a secret little safe song. And it became this container for me and my voice. And it was so sacred, because it was something that, again, never, ever got performed. It was just for me and my voice. So there's so much I can say about the voice, and there's so much there, but I'll just say that it is a gateway to the self, and it has everything to do with what John's been talking about in terms of integration. Yeah, so.
Sure. You know, recently, well, not as recent, but more often the conversation about mental health is something that's at the forefront. You know, people are talking about it a lot more, people taking it a lot more serious than we've seen in a number of years. And I think that's across all genres of music. You know, with hip hop and R&B being my field of expertise, even there, R&B may be traditionally more vulnerable than hip hop, but as we've seen the emergence of emo rappers and, you know, people that are not afraid to disclose their feelings and kind of wear their heart on their sleeve. We've seen suicides, we've seen drug overdoses. How did you all just discover that music, the connectivity to music and mental health, and go into the therapy, you know, because so many people think that a therapist is you're sitting in a room with somebody and you're uncomfortable, you're laying on the couch. But we all, for the most part, love music. So just that discovery of the connectivity of the two, and your thoughts on the conversation being so widespread right now.
Want to start, John?
Yeah,
John.
Good. Was that to me? I kind of like hearing Stacie talk. I know what I sound like.
Stacie.
Well, I mean, I feel like there's an inextricable link between music and mental health. I mean, I think, if I can go back to my childhood, I used to create sleep tapes. I would record the radio, Quiet Storm, and, play it for myself. I didn't know that I was emotionally regulating through music. I didn't know that that's what I was doing, but but that's what I was doing because music helps us to emotionally regulate. And emotionally regulate is just a very fancy way of saying to validate how we're feeling and then be able to naturally move into the next emotion, which most of us don't really know how to do because unfortunately you kind of have to see it demonstrated in your family to be able to really see what healthy emotional regulation, healthy emotional, as like John said, that emotional digestion. So many of us are innately, intuitively using music to validate our emotions and to allow us to be able to feel, because songs are a container. So when you write a song or when you hear a song, what you're experiencing is a container of emotion and an experience that's being held, and whatever's happening in the art, is an outpicturing of what's happening in the collective. And it's always kind of been that way, which is why, and I grew up in the golden age of hip hop and started off as a rapper, and I can absolutely say that hip hop saved my life because I was a sensitive kid. And I couldn't fight. Like, I didn't want to fight. But MC Lyte was out there battling, dropping battle rhymes. And I was like, oh, that's a beautiful way to learn how to fight, And I still remember being in the hallway and the, girl rolling up to me trying to fight. And I start rhyming, And after that, my life totally changed after that because no one ever bothered me again. So there's so much power and healing and expression that comes through music already and naturally, which is why becoming a music therapist for me was such a no-brainer because I was already doing it. And so many of us are already doing it. So I think the key is to become intentional and become aware so that we can kind of get in front of the mind and be able to connect before the mind begins to take us on a ride, and kind of segue into some self-care things that I was going to, mention the importance of that. So I can either mention that now, but I'll save that and I'll ping over to John because I know he's got something to say about this subject.
Well, you mentioned intuition, and we are so intuitive, and you guys are already doing most of this, if not all of it, intuitively. One of the biggest aha moments back when I was still training, our mentor Benedicta, she brought my attention to my tempo, and that my tempo was like, it was just so rapid. And what happens when we have all these different anxieties and different thoughts happening next to each other, they're like very disorganized, they're going at different speeds. And when you have a song with one tempo, or just like you said, it's a container, maybe some songs change tempo, but the way that that's organizing, it's more than just catchy. When you say you have a song stuck in your head, oh, that's so annoying. But what's more annoying is having all of that anxiety. To me, it's like a mantra's come in. To me, it doesn't matter what the lyrics are. It's just that there's this positive message, going around in your brain instead of all of those thought fragments. And that's one of the most powerful things we can do as musicians, therapist or not, is create the structure and express these emotions and put them in songs. And there's a little bit, firstly, we didn't even really talk about yet what a stigma it is still to just be in therapy. And I think it's very important to realize that we have to normalize dysfunction, because mental health isn't something that just applies to them over there in the clinical realm. It's something that we all manage all of the time, whether we're aware of it or not. And so that's where the creative health comes in, because it's happening. Your state, you're either creating through your consciousness or your unconsciousness, right? And so most people that become therapists, they've got some kind of wound. Something puts them in that sphere where they're like, okay, I got to learn how to heal myself. And while I'm at it, after you've healed yourself at a certain point, you help others, but it's an ongoing parallel process, and most therapists will talk about that pretty openly. You're not totally messed up and we're totally fine. We're learning this together. I don't know if you guys know about the 4 forces of psychology, But you've got behavioral and depth and humanistic and transpersonal. We won't unpack all of those, but the humanistic piece, which is it's relational. We're bringing ourselves into this therapy context, so it's not just about fixing someone because we're not broken and they are. It's about this music, joining forces and creating and expressing together. Of course, you're holding space, and we've seen patterns in clients over the years, so we can spot something and know what intervention to make.
No, that totally makes sense. I just want to remind the participants that we will have a Q&A session at the end. So if you guys have any questions for either one of our panelists, definitely feel free to drop them in, and we'll do our best to get them answered for you all. So I wanted to ask, how can musicians use their music to be of service to others? Especially in the time where everything is crazy. Like everyone keeps saying the new normal, but we don't know if what we were living in is ever going to be returned to. Was it normal to begin with, and are we ever going to return to, 50,000 people at a concert standing next to each other with no mask and just being open and free, and the way that people earn money, and even businesses who demanded people come into the office, now realizing that people can work from home. But for us as musicians, as creatives, what can we do and how can we use the music to be of service to others? Stacie.
Well, I think, well, we've kind of brushed over this throughout the conversation, but, the most important thing I think is to first learn how to be in service to self. We cannot fight a battle if we are a house divided against ourselves. Right. If we do not have some level of cohesion and integration within our own minds, bodies, and souls, then it's very, very difficult to go out there and be in service to anyone else. Doesn't mean you have to be totally whole. It just means that some practices need to be in place. And for me, I think that there is a lot of misconception around self-care practices. Even the way it sounds, it's very, namby-pamby, like, oh, self-care, I'm gonna go get my nails done, I'm gonna go get a massage. And it's so much more than that, because if we're building immunity against viruses and diseases by exercising the body and taking supplements, then doesn't it make sense that we have to do the same kinds of things to make sure that we are strong in our minds and in our souls and in our hearts? So self-care really is about beginning each day by making sure that we are not taking our cues from the external world, whether we roll over and pick up the phone and look at the news feed. And mental health can be very insidious in that kind of a way, because whatever we're taking in, particularly in the first part of the day, it's pretty much going to inform our level of thinking and our reality, how we're oriented to reality. So the way musicians, the way we can really be in service to others is to be in service to ourselves first, find those a daily practice of some sort to begin. Something that has to do with grounding is a very good idea, because it's very easy to get caught in the spin of the world. So if we can be grounded in our bodies by actually visually, kind of imagining your body being grounded through some kind of mindfulness practice or spiritual practice or meditation, even creativity. I've always loved morning pages, which is Julia Cameron's free writing exercise, where there's no attachment to the outcome. Again, music therapists were always talking about process, right? So having some kind of practice in place, some kind of self-care practice. Then from that grounded space of being integrated, then we will typically be inspired, right? And being able to tap into that compelling right action, to be compelled to then know what to do out in the world. But it's problematic if we don't have some level of coherence first, and some level of practice first to keep ourselves sane, and then try and go out there and do something. So I feel like the key is to do the inner work first. Form follows consciousness, as I was saying. So shift your own consciousness, find your own way. And this is a great opportunity, I'll just add, to come out of over-identification with one particular way your artistry looks. right? Because so many of us get caught in that. So if we are over-identified with needing to be on stage and getting the validation of that crowd, you know, if we're over-identified with accolades, if we're over-identified with any component of being an artist, this is a fantastic time to loose ourselves of those attachments, to really center into what it means to be an artist and what that expression, what your expression as an artist looks like today. Because it is a pandemic, it is a lot of chaos, but there's something that is trying to emerge as well. There's something new that's trying to happen. So we can also tap into ourselves to see, well, what is new emerging in me? Who am I as an artist today with these new situations or these new parameters or limitations? How do I express? It doesn't change innately who you are. You are who you are as a soul, you're a creative being. So it's just about being able to say, okay, well, what does this look like now? So in many ways, it's an opportunity to evolve as an artist and as a musician.
I love that. I love that. John, you want to add?
Well, that's basically what I was going to say, but if those of you who know me know that I produced my song, Everyone's a Narcissist But Me. And so I just wanted to touch on the idea, you know, I think that some people are really afraid that if they really do positively self-focus, that it means that they're a narcissist. That it just means that they're totally self-centered. And something that I feel is very important is to realize that, you know, there's a certain kind of wisdom to realize that you're not going to really have anything of sustainable value to offer others if you haven't taken care of yourself. And so I just wanted to mention that because there is a thought form that is, if I put myself first, it means that I am a narcissist or I am selfish, and not understanding that that is your greatest service to the planet, is managing this at all levels to the best of your ability. Now, should you have the time to give, you want to do a show, do some songs for any number of facilities or organizations, you know, the Children's Music Fund. You know, they contract music therapists out to work with kids with terminal illnesses. You don't have to be a therapist to do that. You have to have time and the heart and just wanting. If you have that intention of being of service, you will get those opportunities. They will arrive, as above, so below. But are you available for that? Because if we're internally preoccupied, you know, we don't want to shame ourselves for being internally preoccupied, because guess what? Everyone has some version of worthiness, abandonment, betrayal. Am I loved? Am I important? You know, these are stock core issues. And this is from having, you know, done my own work myself, but then also having worked with clients for a decade and a half. Everyone comes in basically telling the same story with a different plot, you know, and it comes down to, how do I really feel about myself?
For sure. As we get to the wrap up, we do have some questions, so we are going to go to those. I wanted to know if there were any takeaways for the people that are attending right now. You know, what tools can they use for just anything that they're facing, any challenges that they're looking to overcome at home? As some places start to phase and open up, you know, a lot of other places are staying closed and a lot of people are still staying sheltered in. What are some of the takeaways that the participants can utilize in their daily lives? Stacie.
Well, I think that there are tons of resources out there nowadays that have really been great, you know, leading with self-care, being able to really seek out and make adventurous and playful the journey to discover that which fills you up. Right. And so if that's in workshops, Zoom workshops, if it's going to like a lot of those places like Open Center in New York has amazing programs online. And then again, going back to using your own music, one of my modalities that I created as a music therapist is called song tapestry. And it's what we were talking about. It's being able to craft a playlist that is meant to emotionally regulate and to help you emotionally regulate. And so very simple way of doing that. You can use it in any particular streaming platform, choose an emotion, choose how you want to feel, choose peace, choose joy, whatever it is that you're wanting to anchor in and cultivate, and then build songs, not that you feel like are, you know, coming from the mind, so to speak, but what are the first songs that pop into your head when you feel into whatever that emotion is? and then build a playlist around that. One thing I want to mention too is in music therapy, we have something called the ISO principle, and that basically means to meet a client where they are. So if you feel like you are feeling, down, depressed, sad, confused, it's okay to find a song that validates that experience. Don't expect to, kind of put on a happy song and then that's going to make you happy. Curate it in a way where you meet yourself where you are and then gradually bring yourself into a different type of vibration or a different type of feeling experience. So using music in that kind of way is a beautiful thing. And sing. Even if you think you cannot sing. You will be amazed at how good it's going to make you feel. It's going to open you up. The vibrations are going to release those blockages in your body. Serotonin is going to be popping in your brain. It's going to feel really good, So I think that would be, and there are great apps for that. Poisey is a new one. There are a few apps out there that really assist you in just being able to sing and to feel good. And of course, sing in the shower because the acoustics are amazing.
Are those apps going to make me sound better when I sing? Because I do feel better when I sing. I don't know if I necessarily sound better when I sing. No, that is amazing, Stacie. Mentally, I always say that I want to vibrate higher. And sometimes, even if you say it in your mind, it's hard to get there. It's like, I think I can, but how do we get there? So those are some great tools. John, I'm sure you have something to add.
One of the first things we learned at NYU is the opposite of depression is expression. And when you ask most people, what's the opposite of depression? They'll say happy or joyful or something like that. And I also think that's partially true of anxiety as well, but I just love that wordplay. And if you really think about that, depression is when things get really pushed down. Now, expression doesn't necessarily mean you're singing a song. It could mean calling somebody up because you have some unfinished business. And if I was going to leave you with a tip, it's this: take care of your unfinished business and don't be attached to what that might end up looking like. It often could mean calling the person or writing a letter, or it could just mean realizing I'm never going to forgive this and I need to because it's going to bring down my mental health. It's going to bring me down. So you forgive not for you, not for the other person. But you only have so much time in your life and you only have so much energy in a day. And if you're leaking into your history, you're not going to have the resources available to really step into whatever's next. And last thing, it's all out there, so many different teachings and ideas about mental wellness. It's a buffet, meaning if it doesn't look good to you, it's not right for you. You're not wrong because a modality that's helped thousands of people makes no sense to you. So use your creative intuition of what you need to heal, not what other people are telling you you need to heal.
Absolutely. That makes perfect sense. And now we're going to go to our room of participants and answer some of their questions before we get up out of here. I'm not going to say most people are anonymous, so I'll just leave them anonymous. In lockdown, naturally, everyone turns to the internet more than ever. I feel this exhaustion on the internet itself causes mental tension. I personally experience how long hours on the net disturb sleep patterns. Can either of you speak to that?
We're in this pattern of Stacie going first, so I'm just going to check.
Ladies first.
Well, first of all, I think just to validate your mindfulness around that you have that awareness, because a lot of times we don't realize how much these devices and how much the time that we're spending really affects us. And so it looks like you've gotten some really, really, really good information. And so that's awareness is always the first thing. And so then I think the next thing would then be, how can I, kind of not really replace, but what other thing can I do to supplement, what I'm feeding myself? Because not only is there the exhaustion and the sleep patterns, but it could be that what you're reading and what you are ingesting from what you're seeing is also unconsciously disrupting your mental state, because it's very insidious, the things we don't realize that are kind of seeping into our subconscious. And so kind of giving yourself a break from that and then having some kind of mindfulness practice will be beautiful, because mindfulness is evidence-based and it's proven. It just means something that helps you bring yourself into the present moment so that you're not caught in all of that information. And that's going to naturally improve your sleep the more present you become. That's what I would say.
And try not to, it is absolutely a thing. Zoom fatigue is a thing. But try not to amplify the negative effects by overthinking or over worrying about it. Like Stacie said, find something to counterbalance, up your water intake, have more time where you leave your phone at home so it can charge and you can take my puppy for a walk, anything like that, so that you're not too focused on it, because the body is resilient. And so is the mind. We just have to give it a chance for those innate healing abilities to kick in.
Absolutely. Yeah, that makes sense. I noticed I would wake up, and for the longest time, the first thing I would do was reach for my phone, without time to think, to process, to stretch, to meditate, to pray, any of those things, and I start to automatically take on the world, and I realized that wasn't the healthiest way to start my day. And so, I definitely appreciate what you both said. Stacie, can you talk about your work as a vocal psychotherapist, what that means, how it relates to music therapy and mental health, and how your work has changed in the era of COVID-19?
Absolutely. So I'll just start by saying that vocal psychotherapy is a phrase that was coined by Dr. Diane Austin, who's also a vocalist and music therapist. And she found that when she was doing voice lessons back in the day, that a lot of her clients were revealing stories to her of trauma and of sadness, of things from childhood. So she was able to find, basically to invent this modality as a subset of music therapy, to work with the voice as a means of transmuting trauma and addressing trauma. And so what I do is with a combination of dyad work, meaning paired work, and free associative singing. So a lot of the similar things that we do in mental health in terms of allowing a person to freestyle and utilize the voice. A lot of it's with piano, but I also do it with guitar. It's really work with clients to activate the voice as a means of releasing pent up and repressed emotions, particularly trauma. And so it's very important during COVID, because so much of what's being triggered are these primal wounds within us as humanity. And so much of what's being triggered is still very much unconscious. So the voice and music, but really particularly singing, is a beautiful way to activate the unconscious material, particularly when we're not doing like lyric writing or something concrete, but really allowing, very similar to freestyle and hip hop, how that flow from the unconscious, and that magic that happens. So vocal psychotherapy really, really introduces that. And since COVID, it's been a little challenging in terms of, not really missing the side-by-side singing, but it has also really helped me to kind of begin to innovate ways that I can bring singing into the digital platform. So I work with clients with call and response, because overall the key is activating the voice. One beautiful way of using vocal psychotherapy, or just vocal, music therapy, let's just say, is toning. And toning is it's something that was invented by Laurel Keyes. We read it. John remembers that book, right? In NYU. And it's really just finding a vowel and being able to, let the breath go and the voice go on that vowel, and, playing with different vowels and different sounds, and really utilizing your own voice to self-soothe. And utilizing your own voice to, again, like as we mentioned before, release blockages. So vocal psychotherapy is not something that, or vocal music therapy is not something that's exclusive. It's something that you can begin to cultivate in your own life by just really playing with your own voice.
Sure.
Can I just jump on the end of that there?
Of course.
Just for you science people out there, what that is sure to do is flip your nervous system from sympathetic fight or flight to parasympathetic autonomic functioning, where your body can start to breathe again by itself. The more we think, the less we breathe sometimes. And so, a lot of times the diaphragm is locked up. And so when you're like toning and holding, whether it's an ohm or any vowel, it's that vibration. This isn't just like woo new age kind of thinking. This is soothing the body, actually recalibrating the nervous system. And think about it like when you're tuning an instrument. We are instruments. We're divine instruments, right? And so when we're out of tune, right, we can't harmonize. How do we be of service to others? We can't harmonize with anybody because we're out of tune with ourselves. When we do this grounding and do all of this work and we start to attune ourselves and get our nervous system in a, you don't want to fall asleep unless you do. To our friend who asked the question about the evening, if you can't sleep, try toning, because then you can calm your mind down. Anyway. I just wanted to say that.
No, that absolutely. Oh, yeah. See, I'm terrible at it. I love the idea of a safe song that Stacie talked about. What other tools do you recommend for self-healing or getting through emotional roadblocks like anxiety?
Well, I mentioned it really quickly earlier, but particularly as it relates to anxiety, I would absolutely say find some kind of grounding practice. If you have a drum at home, that would be great. Drums are very, very grounding. Music therapists, we love working with djembes and all kinds of drums because it's a very, very, kind of direct way to ground the clients that we're working with. But a mindfulness practice that focuses on grounding would be beautiful. Again, visualizing roots coming from the bottoms of the feet down into the center of the earth, visualizing the base of the spine connecting to a grounding cord and going into the center of the earth. This is more than just imagination. It's more than woo-woo. It's actually being able to direct the body to connect to the earth. This is important for anxiety because anxiety is extremely ungrounded. It's up here. It's and so lightning is always seeking ground. And so the lightning in your body, that is the anxiety, is also seeking ground. So if you can ground in the morning before you do anything else, then you will automatically feel a significant shift of feeling of being anxious, and the emotions will begin to clear. Another little fun exercise that someone told me about that works wonders is if you can bring the energy or the image of something that evokes unconditional love for you. For me, what's very quick and easy is a baby animal. So some kind of baby animal. And after you ground, bring that into your heart, and that kind of representation of unconditional love, which we'll just say is of such a high vibration that it really helps to kind of move out anything that's dense in terms of emotions. That can also help, so grounding and then really connecting to the heart space. And really, the last thing I'll say about that is letting yourself feel your feelings. John mentioned it before, depression, expression. So whatever those feelings are, express them in whatever way feels joyous and natural for you.
Yeah, you don't want to push.
John?
How you deal with what you feel is how you heal. And you got to see what works for you, because with the anxiety, you might need to really express it and just play a very high tempo, or you want to go just try to drum really slowly and see if your body can calm down. So it really depends on what you need. For children, there's also a form of body work known as Feldenkrais, where you tighten your muscles and you exaggerate the, in order to fully express it, so that you're not just trying to be calm, but actually, you can go for a run, but there's a lot of symbolic ways musically, where you're busy when you're singing, I mean, you can, when you're on stage, especially, you're sweating, but you don't have to be on a stage. But yeah, so you find how you're attuned to whether it's about matching the emotion or finding the opposite of it. It's going to be different every time.
For sure. What was the process like to become a certified music therapist?
Well, the first thing that we did, and I'll just preface it by saying that there are different programs all over the country, and they really do things differently in different programs. They have different theories, but with our program with NYU, there was an audition process where we were basically needed to be able to play and be proficient on one of the primary instruments that we utilize to facilitate music therapy groups and sessions, which is guitar, piano, or voice. As a side note, I didn't really have any of those. I was a past rapper, basically like a has-been rapper who played cello. So I didn't have any of that. But I did kind of come in with some basic knowledge, and I was able to show some uniqueness. So don't feel like if you don't have those instruments that there's no chance for you. But from that audition process, we were then selected to go through a 2-year program, which includes internship, field work studies, classes, accumulation of hours, supervision, music therapy groups. We were in our own music therapy groups. And it was a very beautiful deep dive into the inner process of what, for me, it was extremely healing. Because as I mentioned, I came in with a great deal of creative injury from the music business, where I was extremely invalidated as an artist. So I got to kind of really rediscover why I love music in the first place. And so once you graduate, there's an exam that you have to take. And it's very much like any other therapy. We have to have hours. We have to keep up our certifications through clinical hours and through continuing education. So that's in a nutshell. Did I miss anything, John?
Well, just that the field work, you mentioned the field work and internship, but we're going straight into hospitals from like week 2.
Yeah.
Working with psychiatric
Into the fire.
Patient, substance abuse, children on the spectrum, everything. I mean, and then you can kind of fine tune your focus. I had no idea I even had a gift of working with children when I went into the program, you know? But what I'm doing now is more of what I imagined happening right away. But sometimes, you know, there's a different timeline to what you might expect.
For sure.
And even thinking about music therapy as a potential profession, I don't know if I can speak for Stacie, but I think we both highly recommend it. It's such a rewarding field.
It seems super rewarding. Absolutely. I used to work with children on the spectrum, and we had music teachers come in with their programs, and that was like the most fun that the kids would have, you know, just being able to express themselves. The pressure was off, the creativity was up. It was like just amazing. And Stacie, you know what you went in there with, Stacie? You went in there with the sauce. You know what I mean? It might not have been on the paper, but sometimes you just come in with the sauce. They don't know how to categorize the sauce. You just have it. All right.
Exactly. Thank you for that. And you know what? I was grateful that I had some really wonderful staff and faculty that saw that and said, you know what, we see your uniqueness. You're not a cookie cutter music therapist, and we're going to help you to cultivate that. So I'm grateful. So thanks for that validation.
No, for sure. And we'll get into this last one before we wrap up. I know we're a little over, but the people ahead in the conversation is flowing and it's great. What are your favorite tips to help someone let go and dip into their improvisational, there we go, abilities to help in their journey to emotional healing?
John, master improvisationist, you take it.
There you go.
You know, there's a very fine line between not caring what other people think so that you can really do what you need to do, and then being considerate of other people. And this is an area where you find that safe space, or you got to carve out the time. You know, that's for one. Are you actually making the time? Oh no, I won't do it. I wouldn't feel comfortable. It takes courage, but you know, I think it's better than the alternative. Like, we know what happens when you keep it down. You know, you get sick. I'm not saying you personally, but that's generally, you know, from a metaphysical perspective, the body's going to express it if you don't. So this is no longer a luxury. This is a necessity, and we're creating a new model right now, all of us, and we're all going to do it differently because we're all different people.
For sure.
Beautifully said. And I would just add to that, you know, if you are encountering resistance on improvising, why is that word so hard? Improvising on your select instrument. So if, in other words, if you are a professional vocalist or professional instrumentalist and you're having issues with improvising in those instruments, try an alternate form of expression to play in, because what happens is a lot of times we have attachments to our craft and we're all tied into the performance component of it. And so our ego really doesn't like for us to play when it comes to that, because it's just too much risk involved. But as they say, a good day for the soul is a bad day for the ego. So whatever you do that's kind of, you know, in the direction of growth, your ego may protest, but you can kind of shortcut that by going into another area. So as I mentioned before, go play in the kitchen. Go cook something that you never cooked before. Find a fun recipe. Go get the ingredients. You know, go get some canvas, paint, dance. You know, improvise in another area of creative, you know, expression that you don't have as many attachments to. And then that inner child will come out and play, because guess what? It's safe, because, you know, you don't have those attachments the way you do with maybe your voice or your instrument, you know, or with your songwriting. So that's the only thing I would add to that. Try other forms, other avenues of expression.
Absolutely. I am going to implement all of that. I should have read that last question to myself before I try to read it aloud. In closing, thank you both for being here. I hope this was as helpful for everyone who participated and joined in the conversation as it was for me. You are both magnificent at what you do. And this is just a small glimpse into the way that you're helping to heal people on a regular basis. So again, we applaud you. We thank you for your time and we thank you for your service, honestly. A big thanks to the Recording Academy New York chapter for bringing this whole thing together and allowing me to host it. Thank you for everyone in attendance. I know that this is probably not the most fun way that you thought you'd be spending your Friday, but you got some great tools and hopefully that you walked away with some amazing things to help you on in this process as we're all trying to deal with this thing called life. Totally amazing conversation. Can't wait to speak to you both again really, really soon. Thank you so much. Let's enjoy our weekend starting now. I'm going to go sing off key. I'm going to go find a recipe. I'm doing all types of stuff. I'm improv. Listen, I'm ready. I'm ready for the world now. Thank you.